All right. Well, welcome back to All Our Problems podcast. It's Rachel, your host here, sponsored by Arnold's Candies. I am the owner of Arnold's Candies along with my husband, Griffin. You'll see him on the podcast with me today, where we've got Kenny from Just a Dad from Akron, and I'm super excited about this guest. I say it every week. I'm excited about every guest, but genuinely, like, he's just a great guy. And we talk about faith and family and really just how life can change even when you feel like it might not. So I'm really excited for you guys to be able to come along, hear his journey, kind of just hear us chat back and forth. And again, thank you guys so much for all the love and support that you send our way. If you are a regular listener and you don't know us personally, or if you do know us personally, like, please leave a comment below. Like, I want to hear from you guys. And I see the numbers and the views and everything like that. And so, like, I know we've got you guys coming back for every episode, and I just absolutely love seeing it. And if you're listening in, just drop a quick comment below and tell us, like, what you think about the episode and maybe your favorite part or something like that. So don't forget, like, subscribe, go and follow Kenny and all of Just a Dad from Akron on social media, and make sure you give him a nice shout out as well. Thank you guys so much for your love, and we'll catch you in this one. I am not going to say I'm excited. I say that every week. So I'm going to say I'm jazzed for today's guest. So I'm going to let him introduce himself, give him a little about me, and we'll get right into it.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah. So thanks for having me out. My name is Kenny Lambert, owner of Just a Dad from Akron.
Yeah.
And what Just a Dad from Akron is apparel with purpose. I create and design fashion, different art, and clothing, and use a percentage of sales to host community events, inspire change, give back, and really just try to, give anyone hope that no matter where you're at in life, you can turn your life around and change.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. Because so I was actually listening to your TED Talk recently that you did. So that kind of gave a lot of perspective on, like, timeline. And
for sure, yeah.
You were really going through it for quite a long time of your life.
Yeah.
And that's quite a long battle to be in.
Yeah, for sure. It was like, I don't know, at least 12 years, So on and off, in and out of jail, rehabs, halfway houses, the whole, cycle of,
thing,
that whole lifestyle. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm glad to be out and on the other side, because in the moment living in that, I thought that was just like what my cards were, I just like, okay, like I grew up and seen people that are like alcoholics or drug addicts. And I'm just like, oh, like that's just who they are. That's just, they're destined to be. It's like, that's what I am. I didn't see the hope or the afterlife, or that is
things can change.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So where was, like, really the change for you? I know that you kind of were like, your prayer to God was, put me in jail or just end it for me.
Yeah.
So I think, where did that kind of change for you?
Yeah, so like I think like throughout the journey of like even like through addiction, there was like little like glimpses and stuff, like anytime I would go to jail, really like when I would like talk to parents or family and loved ones and they like kind of like cut me off, is like in the moment I couldn't see that they were trying to like help me by doing that, but
trying not to enable the behavior.
Yeah, so like there was little glimpses all throughout, but it was just really like swallowing my pride, and admitting that I was wrong.
Yeah, accountability is probably like the number one first step of it.
For sure, so I was like, because I was always like hard-headed and I always wanted to be like, I'll show you, like I was like spiteful.
I can function despite all of this,
Yeah, so I remember like one of them was like right the beginning of my homeless journey started, I got kicked out of the house I was living in with my daughter's mom and my daughter. Okay. And she gave me the option. She said, you either have to go to treatment or you're never going to see your daughter.
Yeah.
And I thought like in the moment I said, I'm gonna show you, like I'm gonna be the best functioning heroin using dad.
Right.
That's an I believe, because I was so spiteful and I believed it. I'm like, like I'm gonna be that. I'm gonna show you that I can be a great dad, because I wanted to be, it's like, but it just wasn't possible.
I think it's impossible to not want to be a great dad. I mean, like just seeing like Griff with our son, like I can't imagine a better dad, but I'm sure that they're out there, but like when I see that their relationship and how they develop and everything, but I mean, like, genuinely, I just love like seeing their relationship. I think it's so like natural. I don't think that people realize that enough, like how important a dad is in a kid's life.
For sure. Yeah, it's very important. It's like for me growing up, my dad was always like a great dad. Like he worked 3 or 4 jobs to provide, to keep the lights on. you know, to provide food on the table. We always had everything that we needed. And growing up, it was instilled that love and respect and peace, like those were like the values that we had, you know, like not like, oh, hey, like you get new stuff, you know. It was
Right.
like,
Yeah,
it
it's
was
not
like
monetary
It's like you had
values,
what you needed, but you didn't always have all the extras
Yeah,
that come
yeah,
along
yeah.
that, you know, especially our society always pushes for like those extras.
yeah,
You have to have
For
this,
sure.
have to have that. And it's
yeah.
like,
So, and then, you know, it's like those, like in the moment, like growing up, I remember my mom, like one thing that always stuck to me was never judge a person by what they look like on the outside, you know, like skin color, tattoos, what they're wearing.
Yes, yeah.
And like as a kid, I didn't really understand it, you know, but like
Yeah.
now, and she would always emphasize on that, you know, it's like love people for who they are inside. Yeah. I never
Yes.
understood, you know, I'm just like, that sounds so dumb. Like, I don't know what someone is on the inside, you know?
right.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know how to
yeah.
see someone for who they are on the inside. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a kid. I see everyone, like, what they wear, like, you know?
Yeah. If
what they
you
look
look
like.
creepy, I'm gonna think you're
Yeah,
creepy.
yeah. So then it's like, and then like that's the thing now is like today, like ever since I've gotten sober and like worked on myself and like worked on the inside of myself instead of like dressing the outside up to like, oh, you know, like people think you look cool or whatever. The best conversations I have with people are like homeless people or like people that are like down so low because
Just-
they're humble.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
understand that they don't have a lot or like, you know, materialistic to provide or for monetary,
Yeah.
but they can provide, hey,
Themselves. That's
here's
what they
me
got,
genuinely at my lowest point.
Yeah.
Here's just what I have. Because I mean, I've helped in like homeless shelters before. In college I was in a intensive outpatient drug rehabilitation center.
Yeah, yeah.
I helped there during college, and I mean, it's the conversations I had with some people. I mean, it's just the most genuine. Still, like some of the conversations I think about today, like the most genuine advice that I've got in my life was from some of those conversations.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think that it's like they already don't have like they're not like bragging or boasting or like have
Right.
anything to like, you know, like,
Yeah.
oh, like you have a nice car, like, you know, it's like, and I think I guess not monetary, but like what's that word I'm looking for?
Materialistic.
Yeah, materialistic stuff. You know, it's like
Yeah.
that kind of like creates an ego or pride,
Oh,
and
it
then
does.
people walk around
for
like,
sure.
don't you
For
know
sure.
who I am, or like, look
Yeah.
what I got.
Absolutely.
Oh,
So-
absolutely. That adds to the ego for sure, especially in our culture. I think it's super ironic that you own like an apparel,
Yeah.
you know, being that like you're always looking inwards and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like where did that connect for you? Like where did you decide like, you know what, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do this?
I think like before you get into that, like
Yeah.
how did it? I remember I moved up to Akron about 70 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not really from the area, and I think it was not too long after that I was on Facebook, you know, following some of the news article, you know,
Yeah.
different news outlets and stuff, and then I saw your story come across.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were just opening was it your first shop downtown?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like in Kenmore, like a little neighborhood out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing about it, I was like reading the story, and I was like, that's completely heartwarming, inspiring, like
Yeah. Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of, you know, any word you want to put in there, but it's just like one of those things that it's like, where did that start? Like, how did you decide to move into that? How did you decide, like,
Yeah.
here's the change,
Take that
here's the
leap.
change I want to make, and coming
Yeah,
out of
yeah.
like your background, you're
Yeah.
like, hey, that's where I'm starting.
Yeah, so like inactive addiction, you know, like 2011, I had like a clothing brand, and it was like the complete opposite of like what my brand is today. You know, I was like 19, 20 years old, so I was in the party phase,
Yeah.
renting out venues, hosting concerts, you know, like hosting events where like
that's crazy.
headliners would come in, and I'd have like 10 local artists open up, you know, so we'd have like Chief Keef, like different,
Right.
you know, MGK, Chip
That's
the
so
Ripper,
cool.
like different local, you know, like big headliners and like local artists. So we'd like got into a lot of that, and I had a clothing, but like all the clothing was vulgar, and the brand was called Dirty Girls, you know. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
like the complete opposite of like
Yeah.
making a positive, impactful change.
Right.
Mhm.
So it's like I had that knowledge from like doing that.
Okay.
And then when I got sober, I was like, you know, I'd taken so much from the community. I wanted to create something that would inspire people to change, you know, like, and that
Yeah.
it's positive. So it's like, instead of vulgar messages, like positive, uplifting messages, stuff that people, when they read it, they're like, oh, wow. You know, it's like a lot of the stuff that I create are messages like not necessarily like they empower the person wearing it,
yeah.
but also the person who may read it. You know,
Yeah.
so like one of the shirts that says like a positive one is like God's got you, and it's a full back print.
I love that.
So it's like, you know,
I
so
love
it's like
that.
if you're walking down the street and you're struggling with something like
Mhm.
faith or like life in general, instead of it saying like God's got me and I'm wearing it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm walking behind someone that says God's got you, like that could
That might
the
be
hope
exactly
shot,
what
you
you
know,
need
the hope
to
shot that
see,
someone
yeah.
needs, and they're like,
The
wow,
message
man.
that they want to read.
Yeah. So it's like just stuff like that. But how I really got into it, like as a kid, I had like hand-me-down clothes or like Wrangler jeans before they were cool. You know, like we shopped at Gabe's like
Yeah,
20 years
yeah.
ago, like when Gabe's was like,
Oh,
when, like
yeah.
Champion was there, like,
Yeah.
and it wasn't cool. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so,
Everybody was like, "Oh, you're
yeah,
going to
so I had
Gabe's."
like
Okay.
the Wrangler jeans, you know, like they just remind me of like farmer, like hillbilly jeans, like
Yeah,
back in
like-
the day. And I'm like
Like
inner
no
city.
no wash anything.
Yeah,
Just
so
like
I'm
the
like-
box.
Yep,
The
I'm an
box straight
urban,
down.
you know, I'm an urban neighborhood, you know, so it's like drugs, violence, you know, this is like Jeezy the Snowman era, like big tall tees,
Yep.
and I'm wearing like Wrangler jeans. So like I'm distressing them and drawing on them to like make them look cool. And I was a
Oh,
young
that's
skateboarder
cool.
kid, so like I went to a school where like there was like maybe like 3 or 4 skateboarders in the whole school.
Mhm.
Yeah, so like I like created my own little like style, you know, then. And
That's cool.
everyone always loved it. Like people would be like, "Oh, like I love your jeans. Like, can I buy them?" I'm like, "What?" Like
I'm
not
in
knowing
these.
this
You're
is like
like,
the
"No,
only
these
pair
are
of
She's
like-
jeans
been
I
like,
got.
"Yeah,
Wearing
for
these,
$100
yeah.
bucks."
Yeah,
Like,
you know,
I'll give
so
'em to you.
yeah, so like that's how I really got into it. And then like, you know, so like when I got sober, I wanted to create the positive brand, you know, like, and so I started, you know, I prayed about it for like 6 months and just wrote down notebooks full of ideas.
That's
you know,
so
like
good. Yeah.
what do I want this brand to like empower, like what I want to portray and to, you know, put out. And then I launched it in March 2020.
Oh, that's a
and
rough.
2 weeks later, no, yes, this
Yeah.
is like right. I launched it before COVID, and 2 weeks later was
right
COVID.
before, yeah.
So then, like, I'm praying, I'm asking God, like, what was the vision here? You know, like,
Yeah.
like it was
Right.
clear, and then like I launch it, and then really it was just like a test of faith, though, like from the beginning.
Oh, I think any business ownership is
Yeah,
test
yeah.
of faith. I actually, like, just the other day we were talking about it. I really want to get like God will provide tattooed or something
That'd be
because
dope.
I probably say that to myself like all the time.
Yeah.
Like all of the time because
sure.
it's like business ownership, you are putting like 100% faith in
Yeah.
the unknown.
Oh yeah.
All the
for
time.
sure, yeah.
Absolutely.
All the time. Like I think that that's what people don't realize. Like when they see you as a business owner, they're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, they've got it all together. They've
No,
got
yeah,
it figured
it's
out."
not-
No, we
yeah.
are
Yeah,
we're just
I'm just
flying
trying to
by
get
the seat of
through.
our pants.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
we're just doing the best we can
Yeah.
as the day comes, putting out the
For sure.
fires. Like
yeah,
that's a big part of business ownership for us, for sure. Like
Yeah, most
in
definitely.
manufacturing,
Yeah.
like machines go down, stuff
Yeah.
like that. So,
yeah.
but
yeah.
that's cool though.
So
like
that first year really just launched companies through social media. COVID, the whole world shuts down. And like it was always from the beginning like apparel with purpose. So it's like sell clothes, do events to give back. So it's
Yeah.
like how can I do an event during COVID to give back?
yeah,
So we like made the, you know, it was like right when the company first started, it got on the news. You know, like the news picked
Yeah.
it up and kind of
Mhm.
like put it out there, and then social media kind of like gained a lot of followers pretty quick. And then we did like a grocery like during COVID, you know, so it was like I don't even know, it was like a food drive, you know, like hey, we're gonna like drop off any if you need food, comment your address and like how many people live in your house. And we're gonna we had like 10. Like there's like an army of 10 people that just showed up and like just delivered
Grocery
groceries
shopped
all
and-
even out here to Canton, like we're delivering
that's
groceries. Yeah.
wild.
That's awesome.
And
That's so awesome.
yeah, so from there, you know, like 6 months in of, you know, it's kind of taken off quick, and it's a very weird moment for me because it's like just 2 years ago at that time, no one wanted me around. No one wanted to be around
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
No one wanted anything, you know, like
Yeah.
people would see me in public and it would be like,
Comeback of the century.
yeah,
there.
you know, so, but it was like a very weird thing for me because like I'm doing it from, like, I don't see it from the outside.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
the business, even today, like I see it from the inside. Like I'm in the
Yes.
store, you know, I'm
You
printing, I'm
stay
doing all this.
humble.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah,
That's
so
how
it's
we
like,
are. That's
I
how
don't
we are.
see anything, you know, I don't see it as the outside. But then people are like, nice, you know, and I'm like, this is weird, you know, like, why are people
Yeah.
nice to me? And then, yeah, so then 6 months in, it starts growing, and I start looking for a storefront, you know, space. And I'm praying,
Mhm.
like, God, like, if you see it fit, provide a space, you know. And I'm driving up and down, like, the main stretch, like, where I was homeless in Kenmore, like, the boulevard, because I grew up there. And I'm looking for a space, and I'm looking. And then one day I just, like, I'm with my buddy, and we're on our way to a meeting, and I stop at the light, and I look over, and I'm like, oh, like, there's a for sale sign. So I put the number in my phone, and it's already saved. It's crazy. It's saved in my phone already as new home.
That's
My buddy
crazy.
said, Kenny, no matter what, you go through hell and high water to make sure you get that place.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
That's meant to
And
be
I'm
for
like,
sure.
yeah. So it was crazy. It was a lot of, you know, I met the landlord when I walked in. The place was abandoned for 10 years. You know, it was all boarded up,
Oh, so
filled with trash. It was a meth den, you know, people that were like, they were renting it as storage, but like
Right.
smoking meth and like collecting all the meth trash and like bringing it in.
oh yeah.
And as soon as I walked in the door, I just said like, I want it. And he's like, what? You know, and I'm like, yeah, I want it. This is perfect. And he's like, you can't even see anything.
You're like,
Yeah.
I
You're
see
like,
the
but
vision.
I see the
Yeah,
vision.
I was like, I see the vision,
it.
you know, I see the
Yeah.
potential. And he's like, okay. He's like, so what do you do? You know, and I like, you know, I'm like, well, I'm a 3-time felon, you know, like,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I'm covered in tattoos with a mohawk, you know, so he's kind of like, okay.
Do I want to,
Yeah.
go
And I was
into
like, you know,
business?
so I was
Yeah.
like, hey, you know, like, this is what I do. I turn my life around. And I was like, if you take a leap of faith, man, you know, and he's like, yeah. So long story short, did all the background check, all that stuff. And he's like, you know, I was like, I'm not the person that you see on that paper today. That's not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And he took a leap of faith, you know, and then like 6 months after that, we opened up the store. And so the store opened 1 year after I launched the company.
That's awesome. I mean, that's a lot of growth too. Like,
Very
how
quick,
did
yeah.
you kind of deal with that growth? Because I know, like, in our time of owning Arnold's, like, we've been dealing with a ton of growth, like
Yeah.
crazy growth. And so for us, like, that brings a lot of challenges, and
Yeah.
it's like a headache for us. But
a lot
for
of
you,
stressors,
like,
you know.
really
Yeah.
starting from base, like, how did that work for you?
Yeah, so like the first year was cool. Like it was manageable, you know. Like I had to do like I still put in tons of work. I think that's what a lot of people don't understand too. Is like because when people stop in the store, I'll be like sitting in the chair and they're like, "Man, bro, you got the life." You know,
Yeah.
like you just
They
sit,
don't see,
you sit in this chair and like
yes.
just wait for people to come. And I'm like,
No.
yeah, you know, I wish it was like that. you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, same.
But like still like today, it's like I grind nonstop. You
Mhm.
know, but the first year was manageable because the landlord gave me rent for $350 a month.
That's
So
awesome.
it's like, you know,
That's awesome.
and then he could like, cause he could like see the vision, you know, and like when he came to the
Yeah.
grand opening, like I remodeled the whole place,
yeah.
you know, so he came in and he just couldn't believe it. He was like, wow.
Yeah.
You
Not
know,
only
like,
that, it was
yeah.
a meth den before, so you
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
do worse, right?
So it's like, it added value to like his space.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I also like lived in the apartment upstairs, you know?
That's
so,
crazy.
Yeah. For like the first year. And then, yeah. So like I'm going on year 4 of the storefront. So like the
Mhm.
first 3 years were like really, really like, you got to think like, so now, you know, the rent is way more, you know? So it's like $350. And then now for the last 3 years, it was $1,100.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it's $1,250. It just went up,
Oh,
you know?
okay.
So it's like, like after 4 years, the rent went up $150. Like that's cool, you know?
Mm-hmm.
For 2,000 square foot, nice little storefront
That's not
space.
bad. Yeah.
And yeah, so it's like I had to pay rent, and you're selling T-shirts and clothing. You know, it's like
You
you have
gotta-
to sell a lot of T-shirts.
lot.
To
Say,
make,
yeah, there's
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of T-shirts just
Yeah.
to be able to cover those
Mhm.
base expenses.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like I was doing like even like any side jobs. You know, like the first 2 years of sobriety, I met a lot of people, and I'd like shovel their snow or like cut their grass, like anything I could do to like just get a couple
get the
dollars.
cash
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
And so like even when I opened the store, it's like I still had those customers. You know, it's
Yeah.
just like this 70-year-old lady that was amazing. You know.
yeah.
And it's like anyone else in the neighborhood would like take advantage of her, you know, like
Right.
she had like a drawer full of cash, you know, because she's old, she don't
Oh,
drive,
yeah.
you know, so it's
she's
like,
just
oh
got
hey,
everything.
here's $20, you know, like here's $5 more will you take my trash cans to the curb? And it's like, you know,
Aw.
half the time I'll be like, no, I'll just do it.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm already walking that way. I'll just
Yeah.
grab
Yeah.
the trash can. It's like,
This is your
oh,
trash can,
but it's
man.
like those people that I built those, it's like God had built that foundationship and those relationships leading up to like opening the business and still to today, because it's like those really helped me keep the doors open.
yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
And build the foundation in the business. So
That's definitely a challenge. Like, I feel like people don't realize that. For us, is like the cost of employees is like
Right.
my biggest cost, I would say, despite like obviously the building and everything like that. But like, so for us, like people think business owners just are bajillionaires and
Yeah.
we've got it all figured out and we don't have to do any work at all. But like, there's days where like we are doing like the grunt work behind
Yeah.
the company because like the candy has to get made and the orders have
Yeah.
to go out.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
If we've got Walmart waiting on us, like they really don't wait for anybody. So
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
like, okay, we've got
you
to like
can't do it.
get
They'll
this
find
done.
somebody else who
Yeah, for
will
sure,
do it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
gonna be
Yeah.
like this has to go out. You got to grind it and do it.
Yeah.
How?
But
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, how did it once you kind of got out of COVID? How did the events start taking shape again?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, the events, I think they've always went like good. You know, it's like even we did like a Father's Day thing during COVID. And that was great, you know. And then we did like one of the first big events I did was a Stop the Violence event. You know, because I've lost a lot of friends in my neighborhood to gun violence. You know,
Yeah.
like kids I grew
In
up
the
with.
Kenmore neighborhood?
Yeah, just in Akron in general. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like
I mean, I grew up in Stowe.
Yeah.
And even in Stowe, like, there are people we've lost just from, like, drug addiction
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything like that. I mean, it's everywhere in this area. I feel like you can find it anywhere in any
Yeah.
community, but especially in Akron. Akron
Yeah.
really struggles.
It's yes, and it's so like that one in like even that event, you know, I just did because like violence is like it's always been a thing, you know, and it's like gun violence 2020. So I just reached out to 4 community leaders, like a pastor, a football coach, Noelle Beck. She runs like the place. She like really helped me set up the whole business and like raised me as a kid at the place next to the facility, like the store.
Mhm.
And I forget who the other one was, but I had them come out and speak and share like how violence has affected them and what they'd like to see change. And I made like a cool graphic shirt. We printed it and we took it, and 150 people showed up.
That's
you know,
so
but I think
awesome.
and we just did we just like shut the street. Like we just popped up on the corner of the street. There's a little prayer garden in Kenmore.
Mhm.
We just popped up there, and we're just like, hey, this is the location. We had the speakers, and we're just like, come hang out. We had a candlelight vigil,
Yeah.
and then like an open mic for people to share. It was like off the cuff, you know, like
Right.
that was one of the first events that I had like. You
Just
know, I'm
threw
like,
it
are the cops going
together,
to show up and try to
thinking-
shut it down? Like, because it's like a
Yeah.
sketchy. It's like a sketchy spot.
Yeah,
like,
big
Right.
gathering of people.
Yeah,
in like
yeah.
A
It was just
kinda
like the neighborhood,
sketchy
like the spot. Like, you know, I grew up there as a kid, but it's like a lot of like violence and gang and
Yeah.
drugs went on that block right there in that specific spot. So it's like the
Yeah.
complete opposite, bringing something positive back.
But it's also a perfect place because I feel like those are the places that need it the
Yeah,
most.
yeah.
They're so easily forgotten because of either like the fear or the stigma or whatever it might be. But like those are the places where we need to put the effort and the love and the focus in the most.
Right, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So like the events since then, you know, like they've just continued to grow. So it's
Mhm.
like we do 2020, like the year of COVID, I did a Christmas present giveaway.
Mhm.
So I was like above the store. The store wasn't even open yet. And I was like $25 short on rent, you know. And I was doing
Mhm.
excavation like leading up to the grand opening and like
Mhm.
even a little after. And I was like praying. I'm like, God, like, you know, it's just me and my daughter living in this apartment. And I'm like, God, like,
Yeah.
please provide a legal opportunity for me to make this rent, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm still like selling shirts out of the trunk of my car, you know. So I'm
Yeah.
like, because I was fearful that like the landlord was gonna kick us out because I was like $25
Over
short.
the
He's like the coolest. Yeah, he's the
$25,
coolest.
yeah.
He's like my first real responsibility as an adult and a
Yeah.
parent. You know, like my own
But it's
place.
so good that you like took it that seriously.
yeah.
Because if you don't
I was
have
scared, yeah.
that,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah, you could easily like fall down in so many
Yeah.
bad ways. Like if you're not taking it seriously, even over $25,
Yeah.
like that's what's gonna fail you as a business owner. You
Yeah.
know, you've got to be
So-
prepared.
And that was like before like the business was really even like a business. You know, it was just
Mhm.
like getting the word out and stuff. And then like that whole year, like when we lived in the apartment, we had space heaters. We didn't even have heat. We
Oh
didn't
my
have gas.
gosh.
Because I couldn't turn it on, you know.
That's
So it's like we
crazy.
just space heated it up.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, it's cool. So like, yeah, that like I prayed like God provide a way for me to make this rent money, right?
Mhm.
And that was like December 1st. December 2nd, the landlord texted me and said, Kenny, I hope all is well. I hope you're staying warm. I want to let you know someone anonymously paid your rent for the apartment for the month of December for like in return of like the work you're doing in the community.
Wow.
And I'm
That's
like, you know, like
awesome.
that rent was $750
Wow, that's
or $725,
amazing.
$750, something like that. So I couldn't believe it. You know, I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
I start crying. You know, my daughter's
Especially in that way too, like just to anonymously
Yeah.
do it
Yeah,
instead
yeah.
of like just giving you a value of something. Like
yeah.
that's crazy.
So it's like that's always one of the stories I tell is like being a business owner. You know, so it's like that really like laid the foundation. And it's like so then I prayed and asked God like, what can I do to like glorify you and like give back, right?
Yeah.
Like. And
Yeah.
so like December 4th, I woke up and it was like God spoke to me and said, buy kids Christmas presents. So like that's what
Yeah.
really initiated like the first big event, you know, like that's like an annual event, the Christmas present giveaway.
Yeah.
And I talk about it a lot in like other podcasts or interviews and stuff like, but it's a very sentimental story, you know, it's like,
Oh yeah.
you know, so we take that, I tell my friends and everyone that's around, like, yeah, like God told me to go buy kids Christmas presents. And they're like, bro, you're crazy. Like, how are you going to pay rent next month? You know?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's
You're like,
not
I
for,
will.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
not for me to
that's
worry
gonna
about, you know,
happen.
like
Yeah.
God's going to provide.
It will. Yeah.
And
it will happen.
so my daughter was 3 and, you know, we go to the store to like buy all the presents and stuff. And I tell her like, we're going to go inside and buy all these kids. Like we're buying gifts for other kids, you know, like,
Don't get excited.
yeah,
These are
like,
not all yours.
Yeah, like
Right.
you can pick them out, but
Yeah.
like, you know, like these are for other kids, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, let's go, you know, super excited. And I'm like, whatever. So we get in, we push all the carts to the counter. She looks at the lady, the cash register, and she goes, you probably think all these toys are for me. And the lady's like, what? And my daughter goes, we're giving them to other kids. And my brain exploded, right? Because she's 3 years old.
Right.
And she's putting the pieces together.
And she's soaking up all this stuff like a sponge,
I
right? But like
love
what I
that.
see is like the life that I'm bringing her up in now versus like
Mhm.
what it could have been, you know?
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
Yeah.
going to the bar, going to the
Yeah.
dope house, like
or you not even being
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
being
yeah.
around, like
Yeah,
her
for
just
sure.
not knowing you.
so
That's amazing.
we did that event, you know, and like that's like an annual event, you know, so like
Yeah.
and that's grown. Like that first year was crazy because like during COVID, no one had anything, and like
Yeah.
the news channel 5 came out and they did like an interview like at like before the 2 hours before the event, and then they put it on the TV and they're like, just a dad from Akron's giving every kid in Akron presents, right?
Oh,
That's what they said,
gosh.
yeah. And it's
You're like,
2020,
whoa.
and I'm like, what the hell, you know, like
Right.
we have enough for like 200 kids,
Right.
Yeah.
You're like,
Get,
that's
like,
a
few
lot,
things.
lot more kids
Yeah.
than what I got presents
Yeah,
for.
so like
Yeah.
it's crazy because tons of people start showing up, and you know, like it's 10 degrees and raining and cold.
Yeah.
People are wearing like you know, it's an urban community, so like people are showing up in like slides.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have
Yeah.
shoes. Like they're showing up in a long sleeve T-shirt or a zip up hoodie, and it's raining.
Yep.
And it's like, we start the event, and the line is like a half mile long down Kenmore Boulevard.
Oh,
And I'm like
my
looking in the
goodness.
store, like we had all the gifts in the store, and it's like we had a propane space heater in there because we didn't even have heat.
Yeah.
And like it was all it was like the meth den cleaned out, you know. So it's like
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
Like nothing else
looks
put
crazy,
very,
yeah, like
very, very, yeah.
but yeah, we just did the best that we did, like we could, and you know, like 20 minutes into the event, I'm like looking at the line, it's growing, and I'm like looking in the store, and the presents are disappearing, but the line is getting longer.
Yeah.
And I'm like starting to freak out, you know, and I'm like panicking, and I'm like, you know, and this old time friend of mine, she like grabs my hand and she goes, Kenny, just pray.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
God will
that's
provide.
right, you know. So
Yeah.
I just like go to the back and I'm like, God, like I ask that you provide for every single person here,
Yeah.
that everyone here, every kid here will get gifts and everyone will be grateful.
Mm-hmm.
And then like 15 minutes later, a car pulls up front and this guy gets out and he goes, hey, who's Kenny? And I'm like, me, what's up, man? You know, he's like, you don't know me, but God sent me here. I have $500 worth of toys in my car. And I'm like, what? That's crazy. So we like start loading stuff in, and then all these cars just start pulling up and like pushing brand new bikes up to the store,
with different
bringing
toys,
bags
yeah.
of toys. Like it was
That's
crazy.
amazing.
So
That's
it's like that was
amazing.
like a huge faith thing, you know. Like when I signed the 3-year lease for the store, I had no idea, like, if the business was even going to be like a thing,
Right.
you know. Like,
Yeah, you
all I did
wouldn't-
was COVID sales, you know.
Yeah.
So it was
Right.
like,
Would it make it past even the first year?
Yeah, yeah.
Second, yeah.
so it's like all those things leading up to, you know, like the grand opening was like a honestly like faith, you know, like a test of faith of like
100%.
God saying like just trust me, just keep
Yeah.
going, you know. So you know, we fast forward to the grand opening, spent every dollar I had
Mhm.
to remodel and fill it with inventory. And the night before, one of my friends asked me, he says, what is your wildest dreams, you know? And I'm
Mhm.
thinking like, man, I just hope people show up.
Yeah.
And
This is it. Like I hope this
and
is it.
I make enough sales to pay rent, you know.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we're gonna pray, and God's gonna show up and show out. So you know, whoa, almost.
See, it happens
Yeah,
every
yeah,
time.
yeah.
I'm telling you.
It's like,
Okay,
so
Matt will handle.
yeah, so we like do that, you know, and like we do the grand opening. The mayor comes out, cuts the ribbon. The Akron police come out and they shut the boulevard down right there. And it's scary because it's like, even at that moment, I like wake up, walk outside, like down the stairs,
Mhm.
and I see the cops shut the boulevard down.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a life changing moment because it's like I've been surrounded by cops in the old lifestyle. My houses have
Yeah.
been raided.
And
The
now-
urge
and
to
now-
run
Yeah,
now
so-
they're here to help you.
versus
Yeah, so it's like I walk
The
out and they
support.
say, hey, it's the man of the hour. And I'm like, and I feel like I'm about to puke, you know? I'm like,
Right.
oh my God, this is
It's
crazy.
also like a big day for you.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I can only imagine like putting
The
myself in your
nerves.
shoes that
Yeah.
morning.
So I just run
Whew.
upstairs and because I'm about to puke, and I just hit my knees and pray. You know, I'm like, God, like
Mhm.
I just ask that you take this fear away and you just fill me with strength. And I also lost 2 weeks prior to that, one of my best friends, you know,
Oh my
Sebastian. So he was a
gosh.
huge. Today is actually the 4 years he's been gone.
Oh
You know,
my
so
gosh.
4 years ago today he
This
passed
one's
away.
for you, bud. That's sad.
And then, you know, like March 6th is when we opened the store, you know? So it's
Yeah.
like he wasn't there. He was a huge part of
Right.
it, you know?
The inspiration of like helping you.
Yeah, so
the
it's like the
confidence.
weight of that, you know,
Mhm.
losing him not being able to be at the event, you know, that he looked forward to and loved so much. And like that kid was like, he had seen it on the news in 2020, like the story of the brand.
Yeah.
He detoxed himself. He showed up at the house. He showed up at my apartment. I didn't even know the kid. Showed up at the apartment and was like, bro, like, I want to change my life.
That's amazing.
You know? So, like, it's a huge thing, you know? Actually, like, made this jacket for him last night, you know? So, it's like a one-on-one.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, but yeah, so it's like, you know, like, all that weight and pressure and anxiety and stress and pain, walking out, seeing the cops, and then running upstairs and hitting my knees and praying.
Mm-hmm.
As I walked down the stairs to go back outside, it's like I could feel, it was like a spiritual experience. I could feel all that leaving my body. It was the craziest thing ever, you know?
Yeah.
And we go downstairs and we cut the ribbon, and we actually gave Sebastian, he had a 2-month-old son when he passed. We gave him like a Dad of the Year or like a Dad of the Month award, you know? It's like a presentation to like honor him, you know?
Yeah.
And we had like a shrine, like it's still in the store, like a thing for him.
That's amazing.
We cut the ribbon, and the street is like flooded. I posted a picture. It was on something. I did like a news thing or something like a week or two ago. They used one of the pictures, but it's flooded with people. And then someone grabs a microphone and they say, I want to present this check to pay your rent for 6 months. The first 6 months. Yeah. And I'm like, that's crazy, you know, because like my goal was to make enough money to pay rent for 1 month.
Yeah.
And then we like sell out of everything in the store.
That's amazing.
And it's like, that's the thing is what I've learned being a business owner, just like in life in general, you know, because it's like, it's very hard for me to separate business and life. It's like, because like the way my business is.
Own a business, yeah.
It's so inspired by you and your life.
Yeah, so it's like, it's really like, I work nonstop all day, every day, you know? It's like anywhere I go, it's like,
you're thinking about it, you're talking
business,
about it.
So it's like, I'm always doing something, designing, creating. But it's like, I've learned it's like, as long as I pray and just keep myself out of the way and I put in the work, God will take care of the rest.
Yeah,
absolutely.
God will provide.
Just do the next right thing.
Yeah.
You know, trust God, help others, and put in the work. That's the biggest thing is like, I had to learn that because it's like, oh, I can pray and like God will just magically appear this opportunity.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I got to pray. And then like, I got to like keep that conscious
you
contact and put in the work. You know, it's like, you know,
don't just reach out when you need them.
Like, it's like the Lord,
when you're on top, you got to still be talking to him and
the Lord will provide, but he's not going to just
give
he's not going to he's not going to give it to you. It's
going
to be like,
it's gotta be
here's what I, you know, I want you to do. Here's the path I want you to go down, and it's gonna be a conscious effort of, all right,
yeah.
And that's the thing too.
I'm
is
just
like,
gonna do it.
When I pray for an opportunity, I have like a general idea of like the opportunity that I would like, or like what I think would be, and it's always completely opposite, right?
But
then it's like
all the time.
I take that leap of faith and I go that route. And then the outcome is way greater than what my original outcome or the vision was.
Yes. We talk about that all the time, like God's plan. And like, we can decide what our plan is all day. But
it's never
like,
gonna be what
it's God's plan. Doesn't matter what we decide.
I remember when we decided we were going to end up buying Arnold's. I was still working a full-time job at a bank. Had, you know, good job security. You know, good job security, you know, insurance. You know, pay through them, retirement, all that stuff. And like when I was like, we just prayed about it, and it was just like, we gotta buy it. You know, this is the journey we need to go down.
The timing was right, and then
I
remember like the day we went to do it.
Yeah.
I literally was like, man, we're like really signing on for this. Like, we are really gonna do this.
Everything we have now is in this.
Yeah,
for sure.
There's risk in like any business, but like to take on like a 70-year-old candy company and that's already like a large manufacturing candy company, and we were only
a staple in like, you know, the Ellis Springfield community that's been there for
you don't want to be the guy that messes that up.
Did
you
you grow up in Springfield?
I did not know.
Okay.
I grew up in Mogador up until like 4th grade-ish and moved to Stowe, but we ended up like at Arnold's because I had worked there.
Okay,
dope. I like knew the owner and was working with him, and I helped grow with like our food safety and stuff like that. And from there we were like, we kind of realized like there was an opportunity there to like buy the business from the owner, and we were like, you know, I had always loved business. I had always had like so much interest in just business strategy, business growth, marketing, like all the things that comes along with it. You know how it is. And just one day we were just talking about it, and I said, no, I wouldn't want to buy that place. I'll just go get like a big girl job. And Griff
Yeah.
was like, you're already
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you know this, you know it like the back of your hand, and what you don't know, like, I'll come in, we'll do it together. And so then he kind of chipped away at the uncertainty, and then it was just something about it. And we had our son, we were on maternity leave, and I gave myself a deadline. I said, when I come back from maternity leave, either I am going to like a big girl corporate job,
Yeah, yeah.
or we're buying this thing, like
Yeah.
one or the other. I have to make a choice.
So we literally had it in like a span of 6 months, had a baby,
Mm-hmm.
bought a business. She ended up having to get her emergency gallbladder surgery out,
Dang.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I quit my job.
Yeah. It was
Yeah,
like
that's a
And I was
dove in
like,
head first.
yeah.
Head
So
We're-
you guys
We're
know
doing the
that-
thing.
the experience of the dopamine, like, you know, like when everything is
Oh.
like happening so fast and like going good, but it's like crazy,
Yes.
and it's just like,
But it's also like you don't have time to stop.
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
really recognize what's going on.
And when
And
that
Yeah.
stops, you're like,
I always describe it as
oh
like,
boy.
it's like a dopamine, like, you know,
the rush.
just like spraying your brain, like
Oh,
a hose,
yes.
you know, and then it's just like, and then after you're just like,
What just happened?
whooped,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that
yeah,
happened to me
often.
like last year, probably springtime. Like, I don't know. We love to travel, so we went to
Yeah.
Ireland, and I think it was like after Ireland was when I finally realized, like, whoa, I really didn't stop to like deal with this.
Yeah, yeah.
like it was a lot of life change. We'd also moved right after we came back from Ireland, so that was probably a lot of it. I'm a homebody, and like my home is everything to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And so like moving from our first home together to like now we bought a new house, we kind of just were like, I felt like I was spiraling in the sense of like life had changed so quickly,
Right.
and I had not like stopped to smell the flowers, I think.
Yeah, I feel like I did that a
Let's say,
lot.
Yeah.
how do you kind of manage that of like stopping to like
Yeah.
you know, like you
Acknowledging
said,
the
smell
win
the
and-
flowers and like really see
Yeah.
like the
Yeah,
the changes you've made, the obviously the community impact you've made.
I suck at that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
so it's
every
like-
business
it's the
owner
hardest
does.
thing
I
to
think
do.
because it's like I'm always like, what's next?
Yeah,
You know, so it's like
Yes.
sweet.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like all these things. It's like, what's next? You know, it's like I don't want to be like stagnant or like sit and like admire an achievement or something too long,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, okay, like to me it's just like all the achievements and stuff like that, I just hope, I don't care about those things, you know. To
Yeah.
me, like
absolutely.
the only thing that matters is like I hope someone that's struggling sees that and they're like,
Oh yeah.
I can change, you know, like
Yeah.
I can achieve, I can do this, I can do that.
yeah.
And then yeah, so it's just like really just I don't know, I don't really care about the, you know, I have like an Emmy award and stuff, and it's like whatever, you know,
Yeah.
it's cool,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah, that's awesome.
it just sits in the case, you know,
Yeah.
like,
Right.
and I just hope that if someone's like, when someone comes in and sees that, I'm like, yeah, you want to put your fingerprints on it, like you want to hold it, like
Yeah.
it's heavy, it's
Yeah.
crazy, but it's like, hey, you know, like that's cool, you know.
Oh yeah.
Um,
That's so awesome. And like I know a lot of like your business too is like your online presence and
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
like that. Like how did you develop that, and how do you like deal with that? Because for me, like I said, I'm a homebody.
Yeah.
I also have really hard time of like publicly putting myself out there, and
Right.
Matt's done a great job at helping me with it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I still to this day will struggle with it, and like Griff wants me to shout from the mountaintops like, you should be proud of like
Yeah.
what you've accomplished, and I'm like, no, I'm
Yeah.
good, you know. So like how did you grow into that? How did you find the comfort in that and everything?
So just from like the very beginning, you know, like when I sat down with this lady that like raised me, you know, she's like, she has like tons of business majors and this and that. She's like, I'm going to give you the plan, you know, we're going to make your secret sauce and like outline your business, right?
Yeah.
And she asked me, she's like, yeah, so like you're missing one key thing in here for your business plan. I'm like, what's that? She's like, you haven't mentioned about like telling people about your recovery or your
Yeah, your
sobriety.
story
And I'm like,
on
oh
it.
no, like I don't want to tell people about that.
Yeah.
Because like as a business, from like my mindset and like perspective was like, why would someone want to come buy a shirt off someone that's been sober for 2 years? Like, you know, that used
Yeah.
to shoot heroin. That was like this
Yeah.
horrible person,
yeah.
a 3-time felon, you know? I'm like, I don't want no one to know about that,
Yeah.
you know? And she's like, no, Kenny, like you got to tell people.
Yeah.
Like that's
You
what's going
are
to
the
inspire
success
them. Yeah. And
story,
like
yeah.
that's what's going to like want, you know, that's what's going to like inspire people to support you.
They're going to connect
Yeah.
with you on like that
Yeah. And
human
I'm like,
level.
yeah. So I was like
Yeah.
super scared, you know? But then like once I did that, and a lot of the feedback, you know, the people that were reaching out, like, yeah, like you inspire, like it'd be a year, you know, like a lot of people reach out like a year after, you know, so it's like they see it, it inspires them, they go to treatment, they get
They make the
sober, they
change.
make the change, and they're like, yo, like a year ago you posted this, and like now I'm celebrating like a year sober,
That's amazing.
and it's like, dang, you know, like or like
That's
you
just
know, like
reassurance
you,
for you.
yeah,
Of
it's
like,
like you helped
keep
inspire
going.
me, like get my kids back, or you helped inspire me, like start my brand, or this or that, and it's like, wow, you know,
That's
and
awesome.
that's a cool thing, you know. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as like the accomplishments, you know, it's like I'm starting to more like get into like, you know, telling people, or just not even like telling people, but just like saying comfortably like I've achieved this,
Yeah.
you know, like because
Or
like
taking the compliment. I
yeah,
struggle
yeah,
with that too, where people are like, oh my gosh, like you're under 30, you own a manufacturing like
yeah,
candy company, and like you worked there and then you grew to buy it, and
yeah,
like
yeah,
that's an amazing feat. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I feel like anybody in my position could do that, but then you have to recognize, there are people out there that could be in your shoes and they don't make those choices.
for sure.
They don't go that far. And so I struggle taking the compliment of, wow, that's amazing. And then you're
Yeah, me
like,
too.
oh,
Yeah,
you shrug it off like,
yeah.
oh
I'm just
yeah,
like, yeah, thanks, I
thanks.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you're always looking towards like that, what's next kind of thing for you?
Yeah,
What's next for Just a Dad from Akron?
yeah. What's next is so like we have the 4-year anniversary coming up, March 8th. Gonna be dope, you know. It's like every year, like I revamp the store for the anniversary, because for me, it's like seeing the same thing every day for a year.
Yeah.
It's like,
You're
you
like,
know,
yeah.
let's
it's kind of
change it up a
depressing, you
little.
know.
Oh, yeah, you're like,
Yeah, but like
Time
even
for
though
Yeah.
a refresh.
yeah, the
reset
inventory changes,
everything.
you know. So like, I'm gonna close down the store a whole week before, build some new displays, remodel it up. I got all new drops, like 8 or 10 new drops coming.
That's
Um,
awesome.
a lot of cool stuff, giveaways and stuff like that. It's cool because like a lot of different local businesses, or just businesses in general, like donate a basket or something.
Yeah.
And so it's like everyone who comes to the event, you know, it's like you get a ticket,
Right.
and then like, oh, you buy the anniversary shirt, you get 5 more raffle tickets.
Yeah.
You know,
We'll
to,
get
like,
you some candy.
yeah,
I'll throw a
that'd be dope.
basket
Yeah,
together.
yeah,
We
yeah.
do it all the
Yeah,
time
let
for
us
like
know.
Springfield,
We'll-
Lakemore area.
yeah.
We'll love to
so might
donate
as
a
well.
basket or
Yeah.
something just to
And it's just like a
help you
cool
guys
like
out,
cross
yeah.
promotion. You know, it's like
Oh,
it
for
gets
sure.
the business or brand or whatever out there,
Yeah.
but also like gives back and people get psyched. You know,
For sure.
so that. I can announce I have like a collaboration with One of a Kind Pets coming out, like a super raw,
That's awesome.
exclusive collab tee.
I
It's
am
like
gonna be
super
looking
dope.
for
It's like,
that.
yeah, it's the word that Tanya asked, you know, like kept saying was edgy. You know, she wanted to be edgy, like how I design and create my stuff.
Mhm.
That's
Because
cool.
they've always had like a basic, you know, just a one of a kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I can literally
The
see their
purple,
logo
like
in my
the purple
mind.
and white
yeah,
logo
Yeah.
that
like,
they've
this
always
is like
had.
very dope. You know, I'll show
Yeah.
you guys after. It's very dope.
I'm
She's very
excited for that.
excited.
That's
What's
awesome.
next? You know, like we have a nonprofit that we started, my fiance 2 years ago. We had someone gave us a building. It was the same as like the store, but even worse. You know, it was like a wet paper bag, abandoned for 10 years.
Ooh.
It's crazy because that's where my opiate addiction started. It was a dentist. I got my first
Really?
prescription opiates there. That led me down a very long, dark path of addiction.
Like the exact same location.
Same place, yeah, the
Is
exact
that hard
building,
for
yeah.
you, like
No,
to go
so
in
it's
there, or do you see it
full
like kind
circle?
of like a phoenix moment, like rising from the
yeah,
ashes?
so it's like, yeah, you know, like when the person hit us up to like give us the building, you know, he's like, God has put it on my heart to give you the space, and I'm like, dude, there's no windows, like it's no electric, it's been abandoned, it's been caught on
Yeah.
fire, it's
oh my
poured rain in there
gosh.
and snow for 10 years. Like, I'm like, I don't want it. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. And he's like,
Thank
I'm
you,
not
but
taking no
no.
for an answer. Long thing, you know. I'm like, all right, I'll pray for 6 months about it. So we
Right.
prayed and
Yeah.
prayed because we didn't even know. He's like, yeah. He's like, I want you to take the building and then move your store over there. And I'm like, bro,
There ain't
I'm
no
like,
way.
Like,
Yeah.
I just did that here, you know. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
I
I
just
just
remodeled
redid
this
all
whole-
this.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not doing it again and then moving
Yeah.
you're like, I
everything.
trust God,
Yeah.
but this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
this
This is a
bit
lot.
much.
Yeah. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I appreciate it, but you know, and then he's like, I'm not taking no for an answer. So we prayed about it, you know, and then like God gave us a vision. Like after the documentary came out in 2022, we have a Friday night meeting that we've been doing for 3 years. So it's like a sober support mental health meeting. It started in the stores, like 20, 25 people. It's now grown to 150 people.
Every
Every
Friday?
Friday, yeah.
Wow.
That's
So it's
awesome, man.
so I was like, you know, like that, like when the documentary came out, that's the time the meeting started like growing, you know, like a lot more people are like, oh, like, I can get help. I can go to a meeting, da, da, da.
yeah.
So we're like, you know what? Like, okay, like we'll take the space and turn it into a recovery community organization. So like my
That's
fiance,
amazing.
she worked for a paralegal all the way leading up till we had like our newborn. He's 8
Mhm.
months old now, Mr. Harvey Valentine.
Oh, 8 months.
Yeah, he's like this
Oh,
little like
that's a
stud,
great
you know. He's
time.
a he's
Is he
little-
crawling yet, or is he close?
he is off the chain. He is jumping. He is dancing
Get outta
to
here.
Not Like Us, you know, like that's his favorite.
Oh,
the
yeah.
beat, it's like it drives him
just
crazy.
bouncing
yeah,
up and
he's
down.
my
totally
favorite
off the
is when
chain.
my son dances because
Yeah.
like they don't know how to like dance.
Yeah.
They just want to feel
Yeah.
it.
They just want to
you
move.
know? And
There's
so
like
I'm
everything
yes,
is moving.
Get it,
So he's just
bud.
vibing out, you know.
That's so cute.
So when the baby was born, she took full-time position as like the director of the nonprofit. Like we've had it, and then like, but like we had nightmares of like remodel contractor stuff.
I can only
this
imagine,
and that.
yeah.
So we found like my homie Paul. He's been in recovery. He's a great dude. Like he came in and he got the place like fully together. Like it's amazing. It's a brand new
That's
facility.
awesome.
I'm talking like we had to get brand new all HVAC, electric, windows, plumbing.
Ceiling,
That's-
insulation.
So yeah,
all
it's
of it.
Yeah,
everything.
that's
Yeah,
big
so
ticket
it's
stuff there.
come from like, you know, the place where I first got opiates
Mm-hmm.
to then being abandoned, to like during that process, like giving people in early recovery or freshly out of jail like opportunities to do demo and clean it out and make money.
Yeah.
To fully remodeled and now about to open. You know, so like, it's
That's
called the JADFA
exciting.
house. So like it's cool because like with our relationship, like she runs that whole side of everything because I don't know anything about that, and then like I just run the business.
Yeah.
And like we just like
play
in
to the
tandem.
strengths.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
during our day, like we text each other throughout the day, like hey, I love you, or hey, like this,
Yeah.
this, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But it's like we just do our own thing, and
Yeah.
then we come home, we do like a 30 to 45 minute recap of like, hey, this is where I'm at, this is what's up to speed,
I love that idea.
and then it's just like,
yeah.
and I never thought or dreamed it'd be like that, you know.
Yeah. That's got to be so much fun though. Like people say all the
Yeah.
time, like don't work with your partner, but like obviously we
Yeah.
we work together.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we own a
As it
business
stays.
together.
Yeah.
Oh,
As
yeah.
it stays.
I love that idea though because
Yeah.
our biggest thing is like I keep strict boundaries with like work and home. Like,
Yeah.
I have a lot of anxiety that can just like
Yeah, yeah.
snowball. I think any business owner feels that. So like for me, once I leave work, I need to like leave that all there.
Yeah.
I need to worry about inventory tomorrow, worry
Yep.
about getting them orders out on time tomorrow and do
For
all
sure.
that later. And then like for him, he's like he's gonna have anxiety if he doesn't have a plan.
Yeah.
So he's like, if I'm not up to speed, like I need to know.
Yeah.
And so like we've tried to balance that in the last few years of like, okay, let's talk about this. Let's get it out of the way because if you ask me at 9:30 at night what the plan is for tomorrow, I'm gonna be like,
Yeah.
no.
For sure,
You
yeah.
know? So I love that idea of
That's
just
what I'm-
like taking 30 minutes and just
Yeah.
getting it
And I'm
out
trying
on
to
the
like,
table.
you know, disconnect. It really just depends on like what's going on and like really like what's coming up, you know? So like right now I'm booked out till June,
That's crazy.
the middle of June with so like events. There's even events that are like past that, but like heavy booked until, you know, June of, yeah, like speaking engagements
Yeah.
all the way in
So
Florida.
we're lucky we
Yeah.
got you
So
today.
it's like-
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, that's like a new thing I've been able to do too is like paid speaking gigs, like big.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
talking
awesome.
like big, 2,000 people event.
Yeah.
Yeah, flying on a plane to Florida and like taking so we're taking
That's
the baby for his
crazy.
first birthday because the speaking event is the day after his birthday.
Nice.
That's
it's like-
exciting though.
yeah, yeah.
Like that's
Get
gotta
to go
be
to
so
Florida's
much
first
fun.
birthday.
Yeah, for his first birthday, you know. So, but yeah, like all the opportunities and stuff is like I have to always remember to give God all the glory because it's
Mhm.
like without Him, it wouldn't be possible. There was
Yeah.
a very scary thing, like 6 months into the business when I first opened. It was
Mhm.
very strange and very foreign because everywhere I went, it was on the news. Like I had like all these different news people
People start
newspapers.
recognizing you.
Yeah, so it's like I'll be
yeah.
pumping gas and people are like, "Oh my God, bro! Like you're the man."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't like confrontation, you know?
Right.
So it's like,
That's how we are too.
yeah. So it's
yeah.
like people come up and it's like, I'm very weird and like awkward if I don't know you. So it's like,
Oh, that's me all day.
yeah, thanks, man. You know, and I had this fear of like telling a stranger that it's not me, that it's God. Cause I didn't,
Yeah.
I was fearful
Right.
that it would create confrontation.
Yeah.
So I'd just be like, yeah, thanks, you know? And then we're out to eat and like people are paying for me and my daughter's dinner. It's like, and it's so the weirdest way, you know, like across the
They're like
thing.
looking at you.
Their eyeballs.
Yeah, and then they're like, the waiter comes up and they're like, yeah, someone paid for your food, and I'm like, oh, you know, like we're like at a steak
crazy.
place, you know, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
and then like you look over and they're like,
You're like,
And I'm
now
like-
I gotta eat my steak.
well, like that's
Well,
weird,
they're
you know, like
watching
just come
me.
up and just be
Hi.
like, hey, how you doing, you know,
yeah. Yeah.
but it was like, you know, it's like, but like what that did was it created this ego and this
Mhm.
pride. So it's like I had this fear of confrontation to tell people
Mhm.
like it's not me, it's God.
Yeah.
And it's like people are glorifying me or like just put me on this weird pedestal, and I hate that because it's like I'm no different or no better than anyone else.
Yeah,
Like,
you're
anyone
just
can
the guy
literally
who
do.
took the leap of faith.
Yeah,
Like,
anyone can do
that's
what I
all-
do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
even greater things. You know, whatever.
Mhm.
It's like, but it created this ego and pride. So I thought that I was doing all these great things,
Yeah.
and I started to become this person I didn't want to become. And within that first 6 months, I'm in the store. I was so miserable. I'm in the store every day, and it was like this weird experience. I'm like sweeping and mopping the floor, and I'm like, today is the day I go to the psych ward for a whole week straight, because I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't
Yeah.
know what I was experiencing, but what it was is like I was trying to control everything, and I thought
Yeah.
I was this
It was
awesome
like a
person.
runaway train. Like,
Yeah, so it's like very scary.
Yeah.
And so I hit my knees and prayed. I'm like, God, like, please humble me. Like,
yes. Yes.
humble me. And I made this pact with him. I'm like, I'll sit in the chair, because I didn't want to use. I was like, more or less like, I didn't want to live, but I didn't want to die. It was the weirdest.
You
feeling.
wanted to be numb.
Yeah,
kinda.
I kind of like, I don't know, like I was just didn't know. So I told God I'd sit in this chair in the middle of the store every day for a week and just wait for him. Whoever he sent to the store was like God sent people.
Mhm.
And that's what I pray every morning, like, God, whoever you see fit, send them to the store.
That's
And lately I've been
amazing.
praying for like God to send people to pour into me,
Yeah.
because I pour into so many people
Yeah.
and all their problems, and I hear everyone's life stories all day long, and just like,
Who's looking out for me?
I'm just drained, So
Yeah.
it's like, God, this week I've been praying like, God send, and he sent, Angel, my buddy Carrick, yesterday. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Me and him have a crazy like story, ever since I met him. But so I sat in the chair for that week, and my best thinking was God's gonna send like a pastor or like a youth leader,
Yeah,
or
the people
inspirational
you
speaker, or like
expect. Yeah.
And what he
Right.
does is he sends these homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
And I see them walking, like, this is where I'm mentally at, like, first 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
I see them walking towards the store, and I'm like, God, please not this person. Please not this person, God.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I think I know who that person is.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Comes
they come
back to
in.
the looking on the outside
Yep,
versus
yep.
what's on inside. Yeah.
So they come in, and I have the best conversations with those people.
yeah.
Like, the best life conversations. Like, those were, like, God-sent conversations, right?
Mhm.
And what I realized in that moment is, like, that was me.
Yeah.
That was me.
Yeah.
Walking towards a business or towards anybody, and they're like,
Yeah.
please do not let Kenny come over here.
Yeah. That's the perfect way for like God to step in
Yeah.
and just humble you right there.
And it comes down to like the last person, so like a week in, I'm learning, and I'm like setting things aside, and I'm like learning, like, okay, I'm like, God's humbling me. And then like my buddy Kyle was there, and I see this guy that I knew from like since I was a kid. His pickup line is, can you help a brother down on his luck? That's the first thing he says every single time I see him for the past 20 years.
That's
Since I was a kid at the
crazy.
gas station. Can you help a brother down on his luck? And I'm like,
Yeah.
you must be, it came down, I'm like, you must be the most unlucky person in the world,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I see him walking up to the store, and that's me like judging him,
Yeah.
and I see him walking up to the store, and I tell my buddy Kyle, I'm like, he's going to ask for money, like, just don't give him anything, and
Yeah.
he walks in, and my buddy Kyle loves Jesus, so he's like, hey
Yeah.
man, how can I help you? Like, how can I serve you? And I'm like, bro, no, like,
yeah.
and-
That is the exact opposite of what I just told you to
We
do.
just had this
yeah,
conversation.
and it's like Kyle gives him a few dollars, and like this and that, and like before he leaves, like, this is the most valuable thing. It's like Kyle says, brother, can we pray for you?
Mm.
And I'm like, wow, okay. Like, I didn't think of that. Like, why don't I pray for this guy? So like we lock
Yeah.
arms and pray, and Kyle says a powerful prayer. And then like after we say amen, this guy says, that was so amazing. Can I pray for you guys?
Oh my gosh.
And he starts praying. He's praying the most powerful prayer. I start bawling my eyes out.
Yeah.
It gives me the goosebumps. I'm like really hot right now. It's got really hot.
Yeah.
And he says the most powerful prayer. I start crying. And then after we say amen, I just look at him and I say, I'm sorry. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I thought I knew who you were.
Yeah.
And I have no idea.
Oh my goodness.
And it's, I feel like I'm about to puke,
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah. That makes me think of when you went to Guatemala. I mean, like, so he went on a mission trip to Guatemala to help them build the floor and the roof of their
Yeah,
church.
they had like the walls of the church.
Yeah. So they only had enough to be able to build the walls to the church. And so and it's like up in the mountains.
yeah.
And he'll speak to it better than I do. But what I remember is like they came home in the service that we had afterwards, they basically were like, we want you guys to talk to everybody here
Nice.
about the experience
Yeah.
that you guys had there. And there was not a dry eye up there when you guys were talking about when they were praying over you guys
Yeah, it's like
going home.
you go and
Yeah.
you're like helping them, and you're like, they're the ones who are,
Receiving,
impoverished.
Yeah.
Living in like the
Dirt
like
floors,
huts
Dirt,
with
yeah,
like
yeah.
dirt floors. I mean,
Yeah.
don't they just only see the people in their community for like their entire lives, unless they're lucky to like maybe get a ride out eventually or maybe
Yeah.
come back.
Like we had a
Yeah.
newborn
But
and I hadn't talked to
it's-
him all week.
Yeah,
Like he had
that's
no
scary.
service.
That's so
yeah.
scary.
And
yeah.
when they were praying for us, like for us going over, they're speaking a catchy, it's like a Spanish, like a different version of Spanish stuff, and like you didn't understand what they were saying, but like it was
You felt
It's
it.
scary. Yeah,
You're
but
like-
you feel it. Yeah.
what is happening here? Like
Yeah.
it was the most powerful thing that's ever happened in my life.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's just like goosebumps. You're crying. Everybody's like no, not a dry eye there. And it's just like it's just the absolute gratitude
Yeah.
and
Mm.
just the
The
Holy
feeling
Spirit
of
being
prayer,
there.
It
man.
is. Yeah. That's
It
and that's
hits
one
you.
thing I love is like that you guys love Jesus.
Yes.
So it's like
yes.
podcasts, like or just interviews or anything in general. It's like it's kind of like a touchy thing, you
Yeah.
know? Like 'cause-
Yeah, sometimes people
Yeah.
don't want to talk about it or they don't want to like touch religion. Like we
Yeah.
had our pastor on with us because I love our church. Like
Yeah.
I grew up Catholic and I
Yeah.
had some trauma with the church. My
Yeah.
brother's LGBTQ and so like it obviously like clashed and
Yeah.
so for me it was really hard to like be vulnerable in the space of religion
Mhm.
again. And our pastor at our church currently like he's a huge part of me like finding my faith again. My husband is as well, Griffey.
Yeah.
But so for me, like I'll never be afraid of talking about it because like I've been on the other side where
Yeah.
like I've been like standoffish of like, oh, religion maybe isn't always that good. But if it's the right place, if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
really are following God, like it's nothing but love.
Yeah.
It's nothing but positivity and going in the right direction,
For sure.
everything.
Yeah. What church you guys go to?
We go to Cuyahoga Falls Church of the Nazarene.
Okay.
and
I was hoping
it's-
you were gonna be able to say it right.
Yeah,
I know CFCN is our
Yeah,
church.
yeah.
and
Give the
I-
church a shout out. So anyone that's
Absolutely.
watching this, like,
Oh
and
yeah,
they're in that
and
area.
yeah.
they
Check
can-
out
they
the
can check it out,
podcast
yeah.
we have with our pastor. Like
Yeah.
that was a great one because you can kind of just tell just by talking to him. Like
Yeah.
he's so down to earth and he just leads with such good purpose of like he's not trying to read into things.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
he just is so real and he's
That's
like
good.
here's what I talk about. Like he talks about his inward bent and like being a dad and like all
Yeah.
this stuff. And like he makes it feel like so relatable. Like you sometimes think when you talk about faith or religion, you have to be this perfect image.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But some of the most broken people are there. So
yeah, for
you know.
sure. Yeah.
But so is there anything that you want to plug before we wrap things
I
up?
think you,
Yeah, I just say, like 4-year anniversary, March 8th,
Mhm.
937 Kenmore Boulevard, Akron, Ohio is the storefront. Social media, just a dad from Akron. Instagram, same. Website, justadadfromakron.com. And yeah, I just hope that, anyone that sees this feels inspired, like wherever you're
Yeah.
at, you can turn your life around and change. Keep God first for me. I got to keep God first, and then sobriety second, because if I don't keep God first, then I can't stay sober. And if I
Yeah.
can't stay sober, then I can't be a dad. I can't do what I love to do.
Yeah.
I can't live in purpose. And, I feel like my purpose is to inspire and help other people.
Mhm.
My passion is to create and design clothing.
Yeah.
And that lifts people up and do stuff like that. Yeah. So, I'm grateful for the opportunity. This has
Yeah.
been amazing.
Thank
Yeah,
you
it's
so much
happy to
for
have
coming
you
and
here.
talking with us. Like
Yeah.
we really appreciate you taking your time. And
Yeah.
I love your story. Like this is exactly what we want to share here because like I said, I think people they look at business owners that we've got it all figured out, but like
Yeah,
a lot of us
it's-
are coming from very real places and like
Yeah, for sure.
we came into being candy manufacturers just because I had a love for the job I had there and you were just following your path. So
Yeah.
I absolutely love that.
For sure. Yeah. I'm excited to try the candy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll load you up before
Yeah,
you go.
for sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
All right,
I
everybody.
appreciate it.
That's a wrap.
Peace.